Hi y'all, it's Marty. I wanted to let you know I've had to step away for a couple of weeks. Nothing major. A simple surgery thing. I didn't want to skip a week, so today we'll be replaying one of our previous episodes. A best of thing, maybe. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in a week or two. I hope everyone had a fantastic week, a productive week, and a very prosperous week so far. Today I'd like to talk about longevity or loyalty. Maybe you call it settling in. I'm not sure what you actually call it, but basically discuss what appears to be the trend of hopping from job to job. We'll have Rodrigo here with us today as well. If you remember, he is a regional facilities manager for a large sourcing company and has several managers and supervisors working with him at quite a few different locations. In earlier episodes, we talked about how to build our resumes and the different approaches that we can use constructing them, and how to prepare for that phone interview. We learned its importance and how to use it to get that valuable face-to-face set-down and prove to or convince our recruiter that we're the right person for the job. After visiting with a few of our guests, I think we should have a pretty good idea of the different positions or what they entail and a few things we should consider about each one of them. And you can always check in on our website, Warehouse and OperationsAsACareer.com, and catch up on any previous episodes that you may have missed. How have you been lately, Rodrigo? And welcome back to WAOC.
Thank you, Marty. Been fantastic. The start of the summer. It's always exciting to be here and be part of the WAOC program.
Well, we enjoy you stopping in. And Rodrigo and I was talking about turnover in several positions that he was looking to fill recently, and I mentioned what I felt like was a trend I'm seeing of people accepting a position with a new company and only spending a few hours or a couple of days on the job and just quit showing up or no-call, no-show one day. I think everyone knows how I feel about the importance of a good, strong orientation and welcoming is to a new employee and how it can help us kind of settle into a new job. Now, of course, I feel just as strongly that even if our company is lacking a bit in their orientation and welcoming arena, we as employees can help them along by asking questions and participating in our training. I mean, honestly, we want this job, we applied for it, and we accepted it. I hope we've researched a bit about the company and chose them because what they are offering matches our goals, both short and long term, and we believe this position has some career potential. Do you think us being hesitant with asking questions and talking openly with our supervisors could be contributing to any of this turnover, Rodrigo?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that I think it's always it can turn out to a positive. We can use the example of the open door policy. That's one of the key ingredients of having a strong retention, within the warehouse employees. A lot of times, an employee is going to be honest about it and kind of let you know how they feel about the position or about the different tasks that they have to complete. I feel like a lot of times, you may not take the whole 100%, opinion that they give you. But I think out of that, you could probably, pick one or two things. And at the same time, by doing that open door policy, I think, the employee makes them feel like, hey, they're really interested on what I have to say or anything that I want to share. They feel like part of the company. So a lot of times I think that could come a very positive way of being part of the company and being part of any changes that, the company may have to go through or any any adjustments that they have to do. So I think it's a great way of, especially for those supervisors, leads, or managers, getting to know the employee on a more personal base, trying to get that information from them. So I think it's a great way to just kind of get it going and start it out there.
I'd agree wholeheartedly, and I hope that all companies or managers or supervisors, I hope we're really spending enough time on the orientation and really that welcoming aspect. I know I probably bring up participation too often, but I feel that's really the word that I should be using. I mean, we spend more time focused on our jobs than any other single situation or hour upon hour. And we participate with our family and friends in every situation and really in every conversation. It's so easy to do the same thing with work. And we're going to need to definitely do that if our goal is to keep advancing and settling into a career. And I feel participating is really so easy. It's just talking about and really to the things that we're really good at. It's just talking it to maybe the next level. Startup meetings are really easy to speak to, and we understand productivity inside and out. It's how we make our money. Keywords are easily integrated to into conversations with our management teams, and we'll catch their attention by using them. Do you think I overemphasize participation, Rodrigo?
No, not at all. No, that's a funny thing that you said. That's one of the things that, typically based on my experience that I have, those are the kind of things that I used to get, very involved with the employee, just kind of having that interaction with them, and I know that we always mention the line of, the communication, the line of communication is always a key role on every single thing that you do on a daily basis. Those are the kind of things that, the employee, it allows the employee to communicate with you, but also allows you to kind of have that relationship with them and be able to kind of be open with them and being able to kind of express, whatever changes they're going through, but also, having that expression of, letting if there's anything that maybe that can be adjusted on their end. Like I said, it just makes the employee feel more comfortable being at that position. And another thing is, a lot of times, learning about the employee, I think it provides a bigger interest, just because, you have that, more of an individual, personal, relationship with the employee. It allows you to kind of understand how they feel about certain things, what they think about certain things. And then that way you have a better approach, whether it's going to be, again, we go back to the changes, but anything related to maybe how to complete a task, everybody's differently. So you have to kind of approach it in different perspectives of it. It's kind of like you have to look at it outside of the box on certain things like that. And a lot of times, I feel like a good leader, manager, account manager, supervisors, and leads, I always feel like they have to spend about, anywhere between 2 to 3 hours out there on the floor, having more of a personal level, getting to know the employee. And one of my goals that I typically try to do, especially when I visit those distribution centers, is I try to go out there on the dock. I spend about 30 to 45 minutes, making sure that at least my goal is to shake at least 15 hands, face to face, kind of ask them a couple quick questions about how they're doing, how do they feel. And a lot of times, by doing that, it goes a long way for those guys to say, well, whether it's going to be an account manager, supervisor, or even a lead man. I feel like the employee is going to feel like, okay, I'm being noticed. Those are the kind of things that I feel like, it can go a long way for those and make them feel like part of that family, whichever the company or distribution center that you're currently working for. So, those are the kind of things that I feel like, those are my goals that I always try to, talk to the guys, being honest with them and also listening to their concerns, whether, they may not like something, but at the same time, just by them seeing that you're listening, it provides a more of a security, relationship with them too. And it goes a long way for those guys.
It really does. I think those are great points, especially the communication word that you used a couple of times. I think I probably mentioned communication being the most important part of not just a manager or a supervisor's job, but employees as well. Another thing I hear a lot or seems to upset new associates, I hear about it pretty often, is corrective actions or warning write-ups. Of course, they may not always be administered correctly, but that could be our supervisor's fault and not really ours. I believe we should be viewing them for what they really are. We're just being told about something we may have misunderstood or maybe wasn't even explained to us correctly. It's just about something that we need to be doing maybe a little differently. All too many times, I'm afraid they're viewed as getting whacked with a big stick instead of a simple conversation. All that's really happening is we're having a conversation and it's being documented. I think we should be using them to our advantage. How do you feel about documented actions like that, Rodrigo?
I absolutely like it. That's one of the things that, based on my experience, one of the things that I used to do is, and let's just go back to the safety side of it. I used to do a lot of the safety audits. Part of it is, a lot of times the employee, their mind is more of, I got to perform. And they don't think about, well, the equipment or, there's something that I need to get checked on. I ran into this situation where, I had a couple of employees that they just didn't want to bring it up to the mechanics, to let them know, hey, there's something wrong with this pallet jack, or, hey, it's not functioning very well. The brakes are not working correctly. And a lot of times, if we, us as managers or leads or even account managers or supervisors, if we don't spend the time and take the time to kind of get to know some of those situations or even see the dock floor, how things are working, a lot of times, a manager could just be very upset and just, write up someone without even doing a full investigation of it. So those are the kind of things that I stress with my current leads and supervisors out there in the fields. One of the things that I really stress is my number one concern is that they work safely, because they represent the company. If they don't care about the people's safety, you're going to lose them, and you're going to have to replace them with someone else with less experience. So one of the things that it's a great investment just to, instead of losing that person or writing them up and getting them upset, I think it's worth an investment of kind of walking them through and explaining what is the most important thing, and kind of, put it in a perspective where, hey, well, we all want to just be, completely safe, on the things that we're doing here. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're able to go home, in peace and, go with your family and those kind of things, instead of having some type of accident or anything major than that. So those are the kind of things that I stress. Some managers, complete safety audits, not necessarily maybe on the random day, every other days. Maybe spend about an hour a day trying to do just random audits. But also, one way that I would sell it is, it attempts the employee just not doing the job correctly, but it creates a safe work environment, but also for the benefit of the personal well-being. So instead of writing someone up, I would really consider it more of a verbal counseling, depending on where the situation is. I would have more of a sit down with one-on-one with the employee, explain him what, kind of be the good and bad guy kind of thing. Yes, you are, your attention is being brought up to because of whatever the reason is, whether it's equipment, whether, a lot of times, you have those inexperienced guys that they're jumping off the dock doors and those kind of things. So you want to be able to kind of bring them up, especially if it's a guy or a gentleman that, it's still currently new or still learning the rules. You want to be able to kind of sit down with them, orientate them, retraining, maybe go back to your orientation and see if there's anything that they missed, or, and a lot of times, it's better just to complete a retrain of everything, explain them in a more of a face-to-face, eye-to-eye contact, and explain them, what you're expecting out of that, and also explain them what the job task is. I think going into more of a deeper explanation, a lot of times it can go a long way for these employees and have a better understanding of what it's expected of them. And then years down the line, if you live, it's kind of like the old saying, if you live correctly, it's going to affect your retirement, so I'm sure that a lot of these younger kids, they want to eventually retire and be able to have a great time with their family and those kind of things. So you want to be able to kind of stress that to them that, hey, this is, yes, it is considered a verbal counseling. I typically don't, depending on the situation again, but I typically just kind of call it a verbal counseling, depending on the levels or where it is. Sit down with them, invest a lot of the training. A lot of times, inexperienced manager can just come in and say, hey, well, I'm writing you up for this, and this is the reasons, and that's it. They don't really invest on, hey, here's what I expected. I'm kind of disappointed, but hey, I do believe in you. This is the things that we got to get going and we got to get fixed. It's a teamwork. And then, at the same time, like I said, being the bad guy, but also being the good guy and explaining him into a more deeper detail of what is expected, I think it helps the employee have a better understanding. And a lot of times they're going to open up to those kind of situations where, hey, I'm not too sure if I should be doing this, or should I consider this, or do I need to report this? and they're going to feel more comfortable. And at the same time, your practices of safety, it's going to increase. And then, everybody's going to have a much better positive attitude within the work environment. So, it may just go a long way for these guys to, to have that relationship with them. But also, your retention is going to end up, working a lot better. I think, part of it too is just the retention process is, how do you encouraging these people? How do you get them prepared from the beginning of their shift, whether it's safety meetings, completing, those safety random audits, spending about a 2 to 3 hour, on the dock consistently, talking to the employees, not necessarily because you need something or because you're going to write someone up or because you're upset or stressed. No, a lot of times it has to go into, hey, how's it going? It may be a 5 to 10 minute quick talk. I know sometimes we're all busy. And then that's what I, typically based on my past experience, typically the beginning of the month or the end of the month, there were more of my busiest times. So I try to kind of invest it in the middle of the month, maybe come up with different programs whether it's going to be incentives, whether it's, being an employee being recognized on the monthly basis. I know that some of the facilities, they do the champion of, number of position, like, for example, the order selector, the unloading, those kind of things. So, set up a program and then also communicate with the upper management or even executive managers to come up with different programs to help out these kids, whether it's going to be, not having any accidents for the month, productivity, side metrics of it where, the guy, well, you know what, I have a top notch guy that completed, a certain amount of cases or pallets, for the month, or what, this employee was a team player for the entire month where he assisted, and also doing cross training. That goes a long way for these employees too, because, having cross train, you're always going to have that one person that is going to be absent, whether it's going to be being sick, emergencies or, pretty much no call, no shows and those kind of things. It also provides, a gentleman that can actually function at 2 or 3 different positions. So it helps you out, less stress. And then also it keeps the employees a little bit happier because at the same time, they feel like, you're making them part of the company. And by them, by you teaching them or, putting that confidence of, teaching 2 or 3 positions, I think I would feel very good. I'll feel like, my management trusts me on this kind of things, and I will be performing. And then, I think loyalty will come as they continue to work through the process.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The appreciation and feeling some self-worth and, from your management teams, from your supervisors, you have to have that. And even if your managers aren't giving you that, there's nothing wrong with going up and just, kind of asking, hey, how am I doing? How's it coming along? And I wish that, we could call corrective actions or warning, sheets. I wish we could call them training opportunities or training sheets. More and more, I'm feeling like supervisors and managers have gotten so busy with reporting and metrics or maybe having to take up slack due to headcount not being what it should be, that we as managers are maybe not presenting the new hires with the orientations and the training or the pats on the backs, the appreciation that we should. We need to give them what they're wanting or, what they're needing. The cost of turnover is so high, really not even measurable when you realize you're always starting over. And if we as new associates don't do everything in our power or at, our disposal to keep that job and do it well by asking questions when the answers just aren't being given to us and participating in every talk and meeting, we're losing out as well and really starting over and over again ourselves. I mean, it's kind of our responsibility to stay level-headed and learn what we need to know. Being that new boot only lasts about 2 weeks, we can learn everything that we need to know in that amount of time and then get down to the task at hand and our productivity. In my travels, I hear, about looking for prospects and stuff about hire the attitude and then train for the skill. I think it's so important that we really take some ownership, asking the questions, being that good employee from day one, and getting settled in properly. What do you think?
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are the kind of things that you want to kind of consider. And then also, let me go into a little further details. A lot of times, we don't really think about, is it gonna, what kind of cost is it gonna, it's gonna cost us, or as a company, to have an employee that has been there for a month that you already invested in training, orientation, the whole nine yards, and then you just think that, well, I'd rather just get a new employee. But here's the cost. Let me kind of walk you through a couple of things that I've seen in the past. For example, the cost that is going to impact the company is going to be the departure costs, such as exit interviews, severance pays, increased unemployment taxes. For example, also supplementary cost of overtime to replace the lost time of overtime, additional advertising, recruiting fees, screening costs, drug testing, background checks, and even possible as relocations or orientation training again, certifications, uniforms, of whatever the required is, PPE for that. And also it's going to reduce the quality and efficiency during the early stages of a new associate, tenure, whether, so a lot of times, those managers don't really think of those back end details. So that's why I always push to make sure that these guys are understanding that, hey, it is worth going the extra mile just to kind of explain them, and sitting down face to face, one on one, having those one on one discussions with each employee. Another way that, that I think it helps the retention side of it is being able to, as a manager, have that responsibility to recognize achievement, whether it's going to be awards, recognition, praise, on a single most effective way to maintain a happy employee, by productive of workforce. So those are the kind of things that you want to, even think about it. I remember that, my early young career, I even went in as far as kind of looking into how to create just the basic certificates. And then what I would do is, I would have that certificate create, for an employee of the month. And just by doing that, there was really nothing incentives in there, but just by doing that, the positive attitude of the employee will just increase in a high level that I think they were very appreciated, just because you have that, you're building that relationship with them. So a lot of times, and also being fair, the communication again, and then also kind of visit those frequently, reasons of, progress. How are you doing? How are you checking? You're doing a great job. Kind of pat him on the back a little bit. But also, if you see something that there's an opportunity to improve, or there's always room for improvement. So you always kind of want to be able to approach that person to explain them, hey, you're doing a good job, but hey, I noticed that there's a couple of things here. Let me show you a shortcut. Or hey, here's a few things that I've learned in my past of my early career when I started doing whatever the exposition is that they're doing on the hourly function. So, and again, especially those third night shift, a lot of times they feel like they're kind of like the stepchild. So a lot of times, especially those managers, they have a higher responsibility to make sure that they have that constant communication with them. So yeah, I believe that, the young managers, I think they really have to think about, well, is it worth it? Just kind of writing it up and not necessarily investing on that. In my way, I feel like if the employee's already been there for a month, it's worth an investment to explain them in detail what they're doing wrong, the expectations, but at the same time, what my view is, whether you're doing a good job, here's some of the opportunities that we can fix. So just to avoid all that cost of the, the prospects that you're having to bring into on a consistent basis, if you're having to replace a different candidate every week or every month. And then one of the things that you always have to consider is with this, turnover, what is the most important thing that is going to affect you? Well, depending on the customers and distributions, but I believe that if you start losing customers because of productivity or lack of training or the lack of knowledge in it, then that is the higher cost. That is the most expensive because a customer is very hard to replace. So those are the kind of things that you have to really think. And us as managers, how can we make sure that we keep that core very tight? So, in order for, not to lose any productivity. So, but again, that's one of the kind of things that I feel like what I call the real cost of associate training.
Yeah, those are really good thoughts. I hope our supervisors are not only giving us a strong orientation and a great welcome to the organization, but maybe outlining a career path for us, sharing where each position, could take us and how we get there. But if they don't, we can certainly bring it up. I'm certain they'll take the time to share it with us. Rodrigo, you brought up some outstanding points today, and I enjoyed the visit, and I'm leaving with quite a bit to think about. Thanks for taking the time for us today here at WAOC, sir.
Anytime, sir.
And I'd like to thank each of you, our listeners, for checking out today's episode, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Please send us an email with any thoughts on today's program or any subjects you'd like to discuss to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com, and give us a follow on our Twitter feed at WHSEANDOPS. We discuss all kinds of subjects there. Have a safe week ahead. Bring up something at your next startup meeting. Let's help everyone stay safe out there.